Susanna Sharkova was born in 1999 in Vilnyansk, a small town in Ukraine with about 14,000 residents. Daughter of divorced parents, she was raised by her mother, Yulia, who worked as a sales clerk in a local store. Yulia struggled to support the family. From a young age, Susanna stood out. At 14, she looked older, standing 5'9" tall, with striking features and a presence that caught attention wherever she went. In Vilnyansk, Susanna dreamed big. She wanted more than the simple life her mother could offer. She dreamed of expensive clothes, trips abroad, a luxurious lifestyle. That's what she wanted. At local parties, she was the center of attention, always surrounded by friends and admirers. But everything changed one night in 2013 when, at 14, she was approached at a nightclub in Zaporizhia, a city with about 720,000 people and a major industrial center in Ukraine. An elegant, well-dressed woman handed her a business card promising to make her dreams come true. It was an invitation to work at a modeling agency. For Susanna, that card was a golden ticket. She convinced her mother, Yulia, to take her to the audition. Though hesitant at first, Yulia eventually agreed, and they went to the agency together. The director, a sophisticated woman, saw in Susanna the perfect potential: height, slender body, and charisma. At 14, she started doing photo shoots and runway shows. It was the beginning of a new life, or so she thought. In 2014, at 15, Susanna moved to Zaporizhia to study international tourism at a private university. But classes weren't her priority. Her focus was on modeling. She dropped out, left childhood friends behind, and even distanced herself from her mother. She appeared in her hometown flaunting the latest iPhones, designer clothes, and even an imported car. She bragged about working at a modeling agency, but something felt off. What was behind this sudden glamour? Susanna dove headfirst into the fashion world. But what looked like a fairy tale hid dark secrets. According to investigations, the agency she worked for wasn't just about runway shows and photos. There were signs it was a front for something far more sinister, including exploiting girls and trafficking them abroad. Still underage, Susanna lied on online profiles claiming to be 18 or 19 to get jobs. She attended parties, took international trips, and even got tattoos, including a flower on her left leg, which later became a crucial clue. According to Valerian Gorbachev, an activist who investigated the case, the agency recruited girls like Susanna for illicit activities, including blackmailing wealthy clients. There was $50,000 in her bank account, an impressive amount for a teenager. In Zaporizhia, Susanna shared a rented house with two other models, Darina Plyushchikova and Anna Lysenkova, both from other regions. The three were close, but the house they lived in the Shevchenkivsky neighborhood near the Kapustyanka River, would soon become the scene of a tragedy. Men frequented the place often, and neighbors noticed suspicious activities. Many wondered what was going on there. Susanna, Darina, and Anna were trapped in a network far bigger than they imagined. In March 2015, Susanna's mother, Yulia, then 38, reported her daughter missing to the police. Yulia hadn't heard from her daughter for days. Desperate, she traveled from Vilnyansk to Zaporizhia and went to the rented apartment where Susanna lived. With the landlord's help, she entered and found everything in order, except for two details: 2 half-finished cups of tea on the table and the keys in the lock from the inside. Also, all of Susanna's belongings were there. It was as if she had left in a hurry, or had never left at all. The police launched a massive search. Volunteers, activists, and even local media mobilized. Posters with Susanna's photo, a 5'9" tall girl with long black hair and striking eyes, were spread across Zaporizhia. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Susanna didn't show up, and no leads on her whereabouts surfaced. Susanna's friends, Darina and Anna, who shared the house with her, told authorities they had no idea where she could be. Meanwhile, her mother, Yulia, searched for answers in unexpected places. Desperate, she consulted a local fortune teller. The fortune teller gave strange clues: a train, a gray house, a windowless basement, and a leg. Yulia was shocked, but didn't know what it meant. The fortune teller also mentioned a close friend of Susanna's, someone who might be involved. Those words would eerily echo days later. On June 9, 2015, Vitaly, a 40-year-old builder and owner of the house Susanna shared with Darina and Anna, went to the place because the girls hadn't paid rent for 2 months and weren't answering his messages. Vitaly knocked on the door and called several times, but no one answered. He then decided to enter the house using his own keys. Inside, everything seemed normal until he went down to the basement. An unbearable smell made him cover his nose. With a flashlight, he saw a fresh layer of cement covered by a rug. Something was wrong. Vitaly called a neighbor, and together they decided to break the concrete with a sledgehammer. While breaking the concrete, they found something horrifying, a human body. The two men quickly alerted the authorities, who confirmed within hours that the body hidden under the concrete was Susanna Sharkova's, 16 years old. But the most shocking detail was that her left leg had been amputated. The psychic had been right. Forensics revealed that Susanna died on March 11, 2015 by asphyxiation. She was strangled, brought to the house, and covered with concrete. The tattoo on her leg, a flower, a symbol of prostitution in the Ukrainian underworld, was removed along with the limb. According to activist Valerian Gorbachev, this suggests two possibilities: either to intimidate other girls or to prove to a client that Susanna was dead. Susanna's mother, Yulia, identified the body by tattoos on the abdomen. The horror of seeing her daughter in that state was something Yulia never imagined facing. But the tragedy was just beginning. Darina and Anna, the other two housemates, had disappeared, and the modeling agency had shut down. Investigations indicated Darina and Anna were involved in the crime. A taxi driver testified that he drove the girls in a body to Makarina Street on the night of March 11th. The taxi driver said Darina confessed to him, saying she and Anna were scared, didn't want to kill Susanna, and that it was all an accident. At this point, the authorities were sure Darina and Anna were involved in the crime, but believed others had helped the two young women. The police considered it unlikely that they alone managed to hide Susanna's body in the concrete. While the police searched for Darina and Anna, who were still missing, the investigation continued. Later, two men named Sergei Kazakov and Vladimir Tson were identified as possible accomplices. According to authorities, they were pimps connected to the agency, which served as a front for prostitution and trafficking. Thus, the four suspects, Darina, Anna, Sergei, and Vladimir, were arrested. At the time, the deputy prosecutor of Zaporizhia claimed Susanna's killers had been killed, but this was false and raised suspicions of a cover-up attempt. Later, the police began investigating another suspect. His name was Dmitry, a photographer from Yekaterinburg, Russia. In 2013, he was accused of killing his wife, a model, but was acquitted due to lack of evidence. In 2015, he was in Zaporizhia photographing Susanna at the house where she was found dead. Extradited weeks before Susanna's body was discovered, Dmitry was later convicted of his wife's murder after new evidence surfaced. Despite these coincidences, Ukrainian police ruled Dmitry out as a suspect in Susanna's case. An unknown woman attempted to withdraw money from Susanna's bank card, which held $50,000. The agency's director was suspected but never arrested, even though some of Susanna's stuff was found at her place. The investigation showed the agency was tied to a shady ex-deputy who ran 72 brothels in Zaporizhia. Rumor has it he bought off local cops and prosecutors to shut the case down fast. In 2017, police said Darina, Anna, Sergei, and Vladimir were guilty, but weirdly, they all got released shortly after. Sources say powerful players stepped in to bury the case quickly. If the investigation dragged on or federal agents got involved, a massive trafficking and underage prostitution ring would have been exposed. That would have meant a lot of big-time criminals facing jail. Activists like Valerian Gorbachev slammed the prosecution for corruption, saying the ex-deputy pulled the strings behind the scenes. In 2020, the prosecution couldn't explain why the suspects were released despite Darina's confession. That same year, Ukrainian authorities issued a statement saying Darina, Anna, Sergei, and Vladimir were fugitives. Photos and details about them were released, warning they were dangerous and that any info on their whereabouts would be crucial. So far, none have been found or arrested, and it's suspected they fled the country. Valerian Gorbachev, who led an independent investigation, believes Susanna's mother, Yulia, knows more than she's said. He suggests she might have been pressured or bribed to stay silent, since Susanna traveled abroad with the agency, possibly for illegal activities. The truth remains buried, just like Susanna's body was for months. Susanna Sharkova's case exposed a network of exploitation, corruption, and violence. To this day, no one has been convicted for her murder.